An Australian man has been arrested in Germany, accused of operating what prosecutors believe was the biggest illegal marketplace on the darknet. Prosecutors say the site, the DarkMarket, was mainly used for selling drugs, stolen credit cards, counterfeit money and malware. They say it facilitated illegal transactions worth about $220 million. An Associate Professor James Martin from Swinburne University is an expert on dark web markets, and he joins us now from Melbourne. James Martin, welcome. So I'm going to start with some really basic questions, so forgive me, because this is all a bit of a mystery to most people. What actually is the dark web?
Morning, Joe. The dark web is essentially an encrypted subset of the internet, and it's accessible through free encryption software. And once you download this special browser that's a bit like Safari or Chrome, it basically hides your IP address, which is the unique identifier that allows authorities to know who you are and where you're located when you're surfing online.
So this site had nearly 500,000 users and 2,500 sellers. How can these illegal operations exist for so long? Why isn't it easy for authorities to shut these down as soon as they come across them?
Yeah, this is one of the really striking things about darknet marketplaces is their resistance to take down from law enforcement. And essentially, the reason it's very difficult to take down is the encryption software. The Tor darknet software is incredibly powerful, and it relies upon these law enforcement takedowns rely upon the people running the websites to make mistakes. If you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's appropriately, they're very, very difficult to crack.
Can't authorities make it impossible for people to download the software to get into these sites?
That would be possible, but that's also quite a drastic step. So shutting the entire darknet down would have implications for national security agencies and for other legitimate purposes that the darknet is used for.
Yeah. So this 34-year-old Australian was apparently in Germany. What can you tell us about this particular operation?
Well, DarkMarket was indeed one of the largest, if not the largest, darknet market in operation at the moment. They traded in a variety of different illicit goods and services, but overwhelmingly illicit drugs would have been the main category of items for sale on this site. And the other thing I guess we can see is that we've seen law enforcement takedowns of these sites before, but it's actually one of the least likely reasons that darknet marketplaces get taken offline. Usually it's got something to do with what we call an exit scam, which is when the administrator of the site basically shuts it unexpectedly and flees with all the different cryptocurrencies that are held in accounts on the site. So this is unusual in the sense that law enforcement have actually managed to take this one offline.
Yeah. And is there, as I mentioned before, this Australian was apparently in Germany. Is there any country where the organisation of this type of site is more prevalent than others, or is it just spread randomly around the world?
We do see it spread all over the world. They've been, in Iceland. These particular servers, I believe, were in Eastern Europe. I think Eastern Europe is probably a likely site for a lot of these places, and indeed anywhere that makes it difficult for Western law enforcement agencies, because it is predominantly Western countries that these darknet markets service. So when the servers are located outside of there, particularly if it's a government that doesn't particularly have the best relations with Western governments, then you're less likely to get that transnational law enforcement cooperation that is necessary to take these sites down.
And what's the extent of this activity continuing despite this site being shut down? If you know where to look, can you basically get a hold of anything you want?
Well, no, you can't actually. There are quite strict prohibitions on the sale of a number of goods and services. So one of the big furphies out there is you can get like hitman services, weapons of mass destruction, all those sorts of things. By far and away, the most popularly traded drug on these sites is cannabis, and then we see other very popular drugs such as MDMA, cocaine, that sort of thing. So no, they're not really the free-for-all sites that are sometimes portrayed in the media. They're quite well regulated, at least from a self-regulatory perspective.
And if my memory serves me correctly, there was another Australian who was caught up in some big internet scandal in the last kind of 5 years, and he was the alleged key person in that operation as well. What do you know about alleged Australian involvement in these sites?
Well, Australians have a very disproportionate presence on the darknet, in darknet markets in particular. We have the third highest in the world rate of usage for people using the darknet to acquire illicit drugs. and around the second highest in the world per capita when we look at the number of Australian darknet drug dealers there are operating online.
What do you put that down to?
Well, two things really. One, Australians really like illicit drugs. They're very popular here. People are prepared to pay top dollar for them. But also the darknet provides a way in which people can access usually quite good quality illicit drugs much more cheaply than you can in the domestic Australian market. So if you're buying on the darknet, you can buy from a dealer located in Europe or anywhere else where drugs are a lot cheaper and typically better quality and access them safely through that.
And so despite this site being taken down, we can assume there are hundreds, if not thousands, of transactions happening every day by Australians getting their drugs on the net.
Yeah, it's difficult to quantify exactly. We kind of need more research in this area to determine precise numbers. But yeah, the short-term effects from this are likely to be minimal. This person has been arrested, the Australian has been arrested, that operation's over. The evidence that they'll recover from this site will probably lead to the arrest of a few more vendors who are using the site. But typically what we see actually after these sites are shut down by law enforcement is an increase rather than a decrease in trading activity on these sites. And that's because these high-profile busts that we see actually alert more and more people that you can access the darknet to buy illicit drugs.
Yeah. Okay, James Martin, thanks so much to talk to us this morning from Melbourne.
Thanks, Joe.